I'm going to try something a little bit different, and not just the setup of my screen, because I wanted to show more of the content. And what you're looking at over here is logos, and I can talk about more of that in a minute. But I watched a video from Mindshift talking about Elijah. And you should go watch that now. It's linked in the description, and you should watch it because it's helpful in that way. However, he does swear, I think, once. He's very angry about things, and once you watch his video, you'll understand why. It's another time where I guess YouTube thinks that I want to watch people bag on Bible Project, which I kind of do, because I want to know what they're talking about. And he makes some good points. I'm not saying that he's fully out of it and has missed everything and all that kind of stuff. But as he went along, I was like, no. You just don't know what you're talking about. And that's the problem. Okay? And when I say you don't know what you're talking about, I'm not saying, oh, well, you're some kind of moron or anything like that. It's just, you just need to do a little bit of research. And I've talked about this before. And so we're going to be going from a little bit of content from the Bible background commentaries. Okay, these cost $40 on Logos' website. They're really inexpensive if you buy them in print as well. They're wonderful and a fantastic resource that you can totally use, and you should. And what we have here is the text, and what I've set up in my Logos is I've got not only the Hebrew, but or Greek, or whichever language it is, in a way that I could kind of potentially read, but then I also have the Strong's word, so I can like hover over it and just get it right away. Okay, so like there's a lot of stuff there, but so it's a little bit hard. You can set it up however you want with that. Okay, and then over here I also have the notes from the Bible background commentary. Okay, so one of the things, you've watched the video, right? If you haven't, go watch the video. Otherwise, this isn't going to make sense. Okay, the first thing that he kind of complains about is he's like, why in the world, right, does he have this whole, like, having fire come down and, like, killing off all of these 450 people? I thought God was a loving God. Okay, so let's see what the Bible background commentary has to say about this, right? Where first he comes in with this thing about the flood, right? Or the lack of rain, the opposite of flood, a drought, right? So why in the world is there a drought? Okay, killing all these innocent people. 17:1, okay? Elijah the from Tishbe of Gilead said to Ahab, as Yahweh lives, the God of Israel, before whom I stand, there shall surely not be dew or rain these years except by my command. So God has said, I'm not going to have it. Why? Because the policies and actions of Ahab and Jezebel, okay, that's the king, right, are intended to promote Baal as the national deity of Israel in place of Yahweh. The dispute championed by Elijah concerns which deity is king, which is more powerful. In the Canaanite material available from ancient literature, particularly the information provided by the Ugaritic tablets, Baal, I'll probably say Baal because that's how I've heard it my whole life, but it's Baal or whatever, is a god of lightning and storm and responsible for the fertility of the land. By withholding rain, Yahweh is demonstrating the power of his kingship in the very area of nature over which Baal is thought to have jurisdiction. Okay? And announcing this beforehand to Ahab is the means by which Yahweh's kingship and power are being portrayed. If Baal is the provider of rain and Yahweh announces that he will withhold it, the contest is on. That's why. That's why God is doing this. It's not because God's like, I really want to kill a whole bunch of innocent people. It's because the king and queen have set up a false god as the one who's in control, and that is harming the people of God. Now, I know that as a modern reading this, you're like, wait a second, I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. God should be a God who's loving and should look after all of the needy and all that stuff. And he does. And that's something that we as the church should be doing. And when we don't do that, that is an affront, and people are right to point out where we are not stepping up to act like God in this way. But God is more interested in ensuring that people understand who he is than in this thing of like, well, shouldn't he just make everybody safe and happy all the time? God clearly isn't into that. And I've made videos on that particular thing before, like the limits of God's love. So there's more than is going on with all this. And we as moderns tend to look at it and say, well, it should be this way. Well, what gives you that impression? Because that's not in the Bible. And what I found interesting about Mindshift's video is that he's constantly kind of like railing against who God should be, and contrasting it with Jesus, and I want to make a video on that at some point in time, because I think there is a reason why Jesus is different, and it's not because God is different between the two. In fact, I've repeatedly mentioned over our studies and all that stuff, and I'll mention it many times into the future, that God has been saying the same things that Jesus says all along. But then why is the actions different? What's going on? There's stuff to talk about with that, but that's not the focus of this particular video. We're talking about this. So why in the world does God withhold rain? He withholds it to prove that he is actually God and not Baal. All right. Okay, and then I just thought this was fascinating. Like, I didn't know this. I've studied for a while, okay? And so, like, the ravine here, okay, we've got this ravine, and fed by ravens. Ravens are known to roost in desolate, rocky areas like the Wadi. Their habit of storing excess food in rocky crags worked to Elijah's benefit. He could observe where they put the food and retrieve it. While much of the diet of ravens consists of carrion, they also eat fruit such as dates. And see, I've always heard it as this, Sunday school Bible lesson of like, they just fly over, like the stork, right? But instead of delivering babies, they're delivering like, baskets of bread and juice and wine, right? And all this other stuff. And, but no, like the text actually doesn't say that they're like bringing it to him tied up in a cloth or anything like that. But this is an interesting thing where it's like, no, historically, like, or even just scientifically, we know that this is something that happens here in this area. And this is a story that's pulling into that. Isn't that interesting? This ties a little bit into a video I made a long time ago on something C.S. Lewis said about miracles. So it's just interesting to me how this all kind of plays together and is both amazing and yet not so overwhelmingly crazy as it might sound at the first place when you've like heard about it in Sunday school, right? Where it was presented in flannel graph or whatever. Okay, so that's something. Okay, so okay. And then he provides for this woman. Why? Why is he providing for this woman? What's going on with this, right? So here we go. If we go into, oh no, it's up here. It's in the town area, right? So Zarephath, okay, is a town near the coast of the Mediterranean between Tyre and Sidon. It is listed as a harbor city, okay? It was a flourishing place through this time, and its importance because it shows that Yahweh had also produced a drought in Baal's own home territory. This is Baal's land. And God's also winning there too. Okay? And so she's gathering sticks and it's showing that, okay, things are not good for everybody, right? She's a widow. Okay. And Elijah, okay, there's just so much good stuff. Like, read this stuff. It's so good. Okay. Okay. And so he's asking for this. Okay. So when we're providing for this, the contrast between Yahweh and Baal continues as Yahweh demonstrates that he is able to provide for Baal's people in Baal's territory just as easily as he is able to provide for his own people and just as easily as he is able to withhold from whoever he chooses. Okay, so again, the point is a theological one. The point of this story is to show who is in charge. And the point of this is a very powerful object lesson where people should be like, hang on a second. So Baal isn't in charge, but nobody's doing that. Nobody's making that connection at this time. They're refusing to turn over to Yahweh, even though we have a prophet come in and say, like, look, if you guys come back to Yahweh, right? Yahweh's withholding it. You come back to Yahweh and everything's good, and they're not. Okay, that is the core problem here. And again, the desire for justice and for rightness and for all loving and God should just take care of everybody all the time and there should be no pain whatsoever in this world. All of that is like a thing that we as moderns, like we feel that. And I think there is some, like, there's some good stuff behind that. But we forget that what we're dealing with is actually like a supernatural conflict that's going on here and a war for people's hearts and minds. And when people say, no, I don't need God, I don't want God, then God's like, okay, well, I'm over here when you're ready. Let's go for it. Okay. All right. So there's so much good stuff. Just read through this. Go get these books and read through this because this is amazing. Okay. And we also have this return of life versus Baal. And this is another thing that Mindshift points out often where he's like, what's with this claim that Yahweh is a God of life? When like this whole story is about nothing but death, okay? And there's some interesting stuff about this. But again, the idea of Baal being a god who resurrects because he follows the cycles of the year and he goes into the underworld. And there's some crazy stuff with that. If you want to learn more about that, listen to some podcasts. I think it's in I think it's in Bema where they talk about this at one point. There's great stuff with this, okay? And what we have here, right, is a thing of like, well, Baal should be able to bring somebody back from the dead. And he can't, but Yahweh can, because Yahweh is the God of life. Even as people die when they refuse to partner with him, right? With this whole thing, okay? Okay. Now onto the contest of Mount Carmel. And again, there is this thing where Mindshift is like, how dare he kill these 450 prophets? How dare he? Okay, what is, this isn't it. Okay, well, we've already been killing Yahweh's prophets. Okay, and what we've done is, this isn't something that was normally done. Like the text here is clearly talking about like you shouldn't be doing this, but they've been killing this. Okay, they've been killing his people, okay? And then Mount Carmel also, this is like at the base of the mountain because later on he goes up to pray, and that's really interesting, okay? And they're being fed by Jezebel. These priests are being fed by Jezebel herself. Some interesting stuff with that, okay? And so what we have here is the nature of this contest. There are three significant things, okay? Fire is an indication of the presence of God, okay? We also have fire as seen, with the connection to lightning and the storm god. And remember, Baal is the storm god, and he often, in his text, also talks about having fire. Okay, so like Yahweh deals with fire, Baal deals with fire. So let's see who shows up. Who shows up with fire? Okay. And then thirdly, okay, there's the acceptance of the sacrifice, okay? And again, even there was this snarky comment they made about, oh, God just loves the smell so much. And actually, if you read your Bible, there's other passages where he's like, no, I hate the stench of your offerings because really what I want is a clean heart, right? Like, I should have pulled up that verse, whatever. That's not the point of this one, okay? But what we have here is, you also have this thing, and I love this. If both parties have been praying for the drought to end, and the resulting rain could be attributed to either group to their own god. As a result, the contest is set up to demonstrate which deity is responsible for the petition of his followers. If fire is sent, the petition has been granted, and the rain that follows can be attributed to the correct deity. And that is fascinating. And that's not something that I had even picked up on as I've thought about this. This is why reading commentaries and stuff is so powerful and so helpful, because it allows you to know more stuff about what's going on. We learn things. And that's why I love teaching the Bible, because it forces me to read this stuff and to get it into my head, because then I learn it. And that's really cool. Okay, so we have all of this stuff. There's just so much. And I don't want to go through all of it because, well, I do. I want to go through it all, but this video would be way too long if I did, okay? But there's like this interesting stuff about like, it's the same verb as Passover. Like, what? That's some crazy stuff, okay? And then, we've got this Ugaritic literature of stuff and everything, okay? And then he talks about, okay, but, what about loving your enemies and that kind of stuff? Okay. Elijah's taunts, okay? And these are phenomenal. Why? Because each of these are actually an element of Baal's stuff. Like, actual Baal stories have dealt with this already. So Elijah knows his Baal mythology, and he's making fun of them through it, which is just so great. Like, oh, it's so good. And why is that contrasted with Jesus? So good. Great question. I think it's something we should talk about another time. Okay, so he's got the altar that comes up, okay, and he does all of this stuff. Okay, and then this was also interesting, right? So we've got this thing here, and then it's like, okay, but like, wait, shouldn't we be saving water or whatever? Okay, I've definitely thought that, okay? But it could be that there is no suggestion this is fresh water. The nearby Mediterranean was full of water. It's just undrinkable water. So it could be that they were pulling water from that. Although I tend to think that, and granted, this has no scholarly stuff from this. Okay, but like, wouldn't it make more sense like, no, God's going to send rain, so that's why we're going to use up all this water here. I don't know. But yeah, okay. But then we've got, the fire and all of this stuff that's coming in. Okay, so that's some stuff. We've gone through that. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to just jump forward real quick. Okay, on to 2 Kings. Okay, and we have this whole thing of like, okay, man of God, if you're a man of God, come down, right? Come down. And then Elijah like sends fire, right? And then he's like, okay, they send the 50 people, and he's like, let fire come down and burn you, right? And then the fire comes down and consumes him and his 50. And Mindshift is like, how dare he kill these 100 people with, just completely needlessly? How dare he do that? What a non-loving thing to do. Okay? But what we have to remember is, why in the world is this confrontation happening? Because it's true. He's not up there saying, oh, I think that you're going to kill me. Moab repairs, and Azahiah had fallen through the lattice in his upper room, which was Samaria, and he was injured. So he sent messengers and said to them, go inquire of Baalzebub, the god of Ekron, if I will survive this injury. Then the angel of Yahweh spoke to Elijah the Tishbite. Get up, go up and meet the messengers of the king of Samaria and speak to them. Is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore, thus says Yahweh, the bed upon which you have gone, you will not come down from it, but you will surely die. So why? Because again, we're talking about Baal. That's why Elijah is doing this, because the problem is that instead of the king going to Yahweh, he's going back to Baal again, even though we've already had a thing where we showed that Baal lost. And then the messengers come back, and the king's like, why are you back already? And they're like, well, because this guy told us this stuff. Okay? And then the king is like, wait, who was this guy? And he's like, oh, well, he's this hairy man, and this is interesting, right? The hairy man, right? Like, okay, got here. Okay, he's got this leather belt. Okay, and that goes back to John the Baptist. So many good things to go in this. Okay? And the king is like, oh, that's Elijah. Azahiah sent him the commander of 50. Why? Because he doesn't believe. He doesn't believe the word. He even knows who said it. It's the prophet of God. It's Elijah. And he knows who Elijah is. And he doesn't believe him. So he's like, go bring him here. Let's go have this conversation, okay? So he doesn't believe. That's the problem. So because the king does not believe that the word of the Lord is, like, one, that he needs to talk to God in the first place. He should talk to Baal instead. That's what he believes. But then he also doesn't believe Elijah's word that's sent by messengers, and he knows who it is, and he knows what that guy is. But also, he's then like, okay, no, we need to bring him here, okay? And yes, it is true that ends out peacefully, because he just dies. Okay, but like, later. But like, this is a whole thing that goes down. So when he sends people, and the people say, hey, man of God, Elijah's like, hey, do you actually believe that I'm a man of God? And it's not until the third guy who finally picks up on it is like, hang on a second. No, seriously, guys. Like, seriously, I actually believe that you are a man of God. Not just that you are the man of God, like a title, but you actually are a man of God who has this power because it's been demonstrated twice. Please, let's stop with this. We get the point now. We finally get the object lesson. Yahweh is God, and you, as his prophet, are one who's following this. Who we need to respect your word. And then it ends up coming true again. Okay, like the word comes true. Okay, which then leads to a middle part in Mindshift's video where he's talking about why right after the why does Elijah flee? Why does he run away? Right? Like what's going on? Why in the world would Elijah flee when he just like seriously like just proved God's real and like everybody now knows? Like why is he running away? Why is he doubting God at this point in time? Okay? Because what happens is the rain comes, okay, and Elijah, right? Elijah goes, he girds up his loins. See, and this is there's some interesting things even in here with the notes about girding up his loins and all that stuff, because it's not even his loins, it just girds up. He just girds up his loins, okay, and it's like not even his clothes. Like, what's he doing? Okay, and he runs ahead of Ahab, okay, and I always heard that as he got supernatural speed, he was able to sprint ahead, but it actually means something else, probably to text. Okay, so good, okay. But why? Because Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, did she say, oh, you should have shown mercy to my priests, because then I would know that God is a merciful God. Thus may the gods do to me, and may they add it to it surely, that this time tomorrow I will make your life as the life of one of them. Does Jezebel see the fact that God has sent rain and has proven that he is God and say, oh, wow, I've been on the wrong team? No, she doesn't. So Elijah's like, what good is this? If we can have this incredible showdown where I prove to you with beyond a shadow of a doubt that your God is not in control and my God is, and you still say, I don't care. You're going to die. I'm going to kill you because you killed my prophets. Then what hope is there? And this is, again, another one of those problems for me with the modern way of reading the Bible, where we read our Bible and we're like, well, that shouldn't have been done that way. when we miss what's going on, and we even miss why it's even happening, right? Like, it's right here. It says why it's happening. Okay, there's more. There's, of course, more. There's so much good stuff to talk about with this. But I want to just kind of point out that this isn't even something that you need to go spend $40 to get. So if you're over there and you're like, hang on a second, but I don't want to spend $40 to buy another resource for a thing that I don't believe in at all, right? Okay, so Mindshift and anyone else who's watching this video, if you're like, but yeah, so I don't want to spend money on these resources that are clearly, okay, well then, you know what you can do is you can go to logos.com. You can go to use the web app. You don't even have to create an account. You can just load it up, and then you can type in. And there's the Lexham Bible Dictionary. Okay, that's a resource that's available for free. Lexham Bible Dictionary. You can type in Elijah, and you can click on Elijah the prophet. You can also type in the Bible reference that you want to go to. Okay, and the notes are here. Okay, and the notes in this talk about Baal, and they talk about the stuff that's going on with all of this. It talks about even the sent to heaven, which I'm not getting into right now. There's more with that, and there are some really good points that I one day hope to get a video about that stuff, right? And then the anticipated return. There's even more about all of that stuff. This is all available for free, no charge. You don't have to create an account. Go to logos.com, do this. Okay. So there you go. And Logos has just switched to a subscription model. I used to be able to give you a $100 discount on Logos, but that doesn't seem to be working anymore. I have no idea what they're doing with affiliates or anything like that. So at this point in time, I don't know. If you want to buy something from them, or fine, go for it. I don't even know how the subscription thing is going to work out. But I just wanted to show you that these resources are out there. They make much more sense of the thing that's going on. So instead of being wow, this just makes me angry, and it's so stupid that Christians believe this, and how are they so this? Well, this is an opportunity where it says, okay, you need to go learn more, okay? And that's what we do here at the Bloggy. So why don't you leave some comments, and if you are still really angry about a particular aspect of this, maybe I can leave some comments and help assuage some stuff, or at least give you my best guess as to what this is, or some text on it, or something like that, because it makes sense why people are angry. But then you just need to learn about what's going on. And so here's a resource for you to learn what's going on with it. And so I really hope that this helps. And I do want to know what you think about all of this. This is the Bloggy. Let's learn more together.